Alright, so we're going to go over next week's programming. We got some exciting stuff coming up. Tim is going to start off talking about our lifting for next week, and then I'll go over the conditioning. And I'm going to try to get into a little more why we do things. I know I leave that out sometimes, not intentionally, I just don't think to say it. So I'm going to try to go into a little more detail as far as the conditioning of why we do each thing.
Is next Saturday isn't the last Saturday, is it?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, so next week is our last week of 5s and 3s for the strength stuff. So they're coming off of a deload week, which is this week. So next week they're going to load up a little bit more, but not as much as the first week. So you want them to shoot between 75 to 80%. If you're dealing with someone who hasn't been consistent with your training, it's a moderate to heavy 5 or 3 that we're going for. The Olympic lifts, once again, are an inch above the knee. The one thing you always need to remind your class about that position is they come to a full standing position and they drop down to it. So they don't just stand up into a hang above the knee. They stand all the way up and then they drop down to right above the knee. And that's what they'll do all 3 of their reps from. We've been doing pretty much myofascial release a lot in the warm-ups, and that's great for the back squat days especially. If your class complains about having to foam roll or barbell roll out their quads, explain to them exactly what that does, and it's helping your muscles release a lot of the fluids that get sticky since we work out so much and they tear apart, and just make sure better squatting. And we do the scapular stuff with the lacrosse ball on the overhead days because it does the same thing for your shoulders. That scap in the back, it'll get real sticky with the muscles, will cling to it, and it'll cause you issues with pain in your shoulder if you're not aware of it. And then once again we have the cool down stretching at the end every day. I've been recommending the couch stretch this week, and I'll probably do some kind of 3-position shoulder stretch next week with the band. Just switch it up, tell them whatever. They end up doing their own thing.
Alright, so as far as the conditioning, let's look at Monday on the 17th. You'll see we're going to do 5 rounds for time of 10 overhead squats and 50 double unders. And on the squats, what we've been doing is something from Louis Simmons from Westside Barbell. Every week he does a set of heavy squats and then another day of either dynamic or repetition squats. And the dynamic effort is, you remember you remember a few weeks ago we were doing that with the 50% of your weight and exploding back up. But I don't think that was working out real well because I didn't feel like the people did. I don't feel like we were getting the intent of the workout. I don't think people were exploding up fast enough. They just weren't. I don't want to say not taking it serious, but it's kind of hard to take that serious when people are goofing off and having fun. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I just don't think it was working. So instead of doing that dynamic effort day, we do a repetition day. And so you'll see in a little bit on Friday, it's going to be repetition squats. But on Monday, we had the overhead squats. You may be thinking, well, that's a heavy back squat, then a repetition day on the same day. Then later in the week, we're doing another repetition day. But the overhead squats for this are pretty light. They're lighter for an overhead squat, and as far as taxing on your legs, they're going to be pretty light. So you're not going to be squatting too much there. Let's see. This first workout here, I wanted it to be something a little bit faster. So it's called lactic power because you're using lactate as a fuel source. But the good people in the gym this is going to be a lactic power workout for them. The people that aren't as experienced is probably going to turn them to more of an aerobic workout. And whatever weight they're using for those overhead squats, they should be able to get through at least 2 rounds unbroken. So if they're looking for a weight to gauge, that's how they should gauge it. So that's a relatively light weight. The next day, Tuesday, you'll see that first set. Let me just talk about that nomenclature. I did not get that from Rudy Nelson. although he kind of writes his stuff like that, I got it from somebody else, and he also copied that. So move on from there. But you're going to do 3 sets of 5 strict pull-ups and then 10 to 20 perfect push-ups, and that's not for time. And so that just you're just going back and forth, and you're going to rest 2 minutes between those sets. On the pull-ups, make sure at the top of that pull-up, it should be similar to a back squat. Your shoulders are retracted. I mean, I like to have the bar on their back. Their chest is up, and they have a neutral chin. Like, go over that with them and explain the reasoning why. You know, you got to sell people on whatever it is. So, you know, if it's a soccer player, they may be wondering why we're doing pull-ups. Well, if you do the right position, your back squat's going to increase. I think we all agree that stronger legs will help you in soccer, you know, that sort of thing. On push-ups, these are perfect push-ups. So plank, like think plank, plank, plank. Explain to them what that means. We want those elbows like tucked into your side when you do this, not all out to the side. So it's perfect push-ups. That's why we're doing it not for time. And then on the workout, let's see, the lunges is a single leg movement we're doing to complement the squats from the day before. Like if these were athletes just training all day, we would probably do that single leg work on the same day. But you know, they're just coming in here for an hour, so we got to work with the time that we have. So we're going to do that single leg work on the next day. And the kettlebells, same thing. Kettlebell swings are very similar to a deadlift as far as what it works, but I look at it kind of like an endurance deadlift. Like we have the heavy squats and then endurance squats. We have a heavy deadlift and an endurance deadlift. So power cleans or kettlebell swings can be used for that. So that's why I threw it into that Metcon. And on the kettlebells, make sure people aren't dropping the kettlebells. I mean, if they're dropping like that far, it's okay, but for some reason, we hadn't done this in like a year, but I've been seeing a lot of people just like dropping kettlebells from really high, so let's not do that. All right, on Wednesday, this is, the intent of this is to be like shorter conditioning intervals. But our members don't really have that much fun when you just have them doing something like run 200-meter sprints and rest 2 minutes. So I've kind of tricked them here. But it's still getting some good work in. So you'll see on that first one, 3 rounds for time of 40 sit-ups and run 200 meters. They should be killing that 200, so tell them that. Because they're going to get caught up on the sit-ups, or most people are. Most people aren't going to be able to do 40 sit-ups. So that's going to force them to take a little bit of a rest, and therefore making it interval work. Then you're going to rest 5 minutes, and then I'm doing the same kind of thing here on this interval stuff. Is 10 push press. Like people should be able to get that unbroken, and then 6 broad jumps. So the broad jumps are just like it's saying. You're just starting here and then jumping, and then turning around and jumping back. And I have 6 foot and a 5 foot. So a 6 foot broad jump is the length of the mat. To figure a 5 foot, that's for females. Just step like a foot off, get a little piece of chalk so they can mark it. And then people are going to have to rest to do those broad jumps. I mean, so this is not meant just go back and forth, and if you don't jump the whole distance, that's fine. Just keep going and get it in. Like I want you to stop and rest, so you'll have to get that distance. So just reinforce that. And get them to no-rep themselves. If they jump and they didn't get as far, tell them to no-rep themselves. And that's the reason I put that in, that little combination there. The push press is a really good, like quick, explosive motion, but it's vertical, up, down, up, down. And then that broad jump is something we don't do a whole lot, like working in the horizontal plane. All right, on Thursday, we're doing the Turkish get-ups and tall box jumps. So Turkish get-ups are a great way to train stability and get each side of your body balanced. So if you'll notice, most people, it's easier to do Turkish get-ups on one side than the other, and it just helps balance that body out. Balance really increases your strength and really prevents injuries. Other than the tall box jumps, people should push themselves, but make sure they're comfortable with it. We don't want any freak accidents following on box jumps. But that's just to work some explosiveness after that Olympic lifting. A lot of times your body can get conditioned to just being explosive with weights. So we want to remove the weights and get them to be conditioned with just their body, conditioned to being explosive with just their body weight. And then that 500, that's just a good, good quick way to finish off the day. Is 2 minutes. That could be considered like lactic capacity testing or lactic power is what it calls. You're still using lactate as a fuel. Nobody would ever come in and do this a 500-meter row just with nothing else. So we kind of like tricked them again into, we get them to do all the other stuff and throw the 500-meter row in. Let's see, on Friday, this is where we're doing the endurance squats and we're putting it into the workout. So I mentioned Louis Simmons earlier. Like, he wouldn't do the high repetition squats in the workout, but this is CrossFit, so we can kind of slip those in there. Then we have push-ups. Really, like, push people to do perfect push-ups, but, you know, if I'm racing my friend, I'm not going to keep them perfect. I'm probably going to let my elbows start to get out. So, I mean, you don't have to be a huge stickler on that, but encourage them to go perfect as long as they can. Then you have the pull-ups, and then you have the 5 power cleans. On that workout, you're not going to use racks. So on those back squats, they're going to pick it up, go overhead, put it on their back. They should be able to do 20 back squats unbroken. I mean, they may have to stand there and rest, but they shouldn't be dropping it and picking it back up. Finally, on Saturday, this is the last Saturday of the month, so we're doing the RWB workout called Mr. Joshua. There's probably nobody that should be doing this by themselves. So don't even act like we're giving that option. If somebody comes in like Glenn McDonald and wants to do it himself, like